Every thought that has ever been thought already exists. Outside of this linear time-space reality, all time is simultaneous. So there is no past, present or future. There is only one now moment. Every thought that we have had and every thought that we will ever have already exists in a dimension that is overlaid but not perceivable by us on top of the physical dimension in which we exist. When we wrote the article on dimensions, we discussed that this thought realm or dimension might be what we call the fifth dimension as it relates to this reality. Every thought from this reality resides in the fifth dimension. The formation of these thoughts occurs in the fourth dimension. We could call this dimension the blueprint for our reality. This is where the creation of what we experience here is planned and formed. As we step down to the third dimension, we can see the physical manifestation or creation of these thoughts and experience them. So, to try and explain it more simply, the fifth dimension is the realm of thought. The fourth dimension is the realm of thought form. The third dimension is the realm of manifested thought form into physical expression. Also, within these dimensions are what we call densities. These densities are the various frequencies or vibrations of our thoughts, thought forms, and manifestations. Everything has a frequency of vibration. For clarity, we will refer to this vibration using the terms high and low, since we can all understand these measures, as discussed in previous videos, as representative of our emotional state. There are no beings living in these higher or lower dimensions. These are merely realms of vibration that we all have access to based on the frequency of where we are in a specific moment. Every time you have a thought, you have just accessed the fifth dimension. When you ponder on the particular thought with more intense focus, you have just accessed the fourth dimension. You have taken that thought you retrieved from the fifth dimension and given it form, thus thought form. If you know how creation works, it is possible to take what you form in the fourth dimension and bring it into the third dimension as a manifested experience. To give you an example of this, let's say you want a new car. This was the example used by William Buhlman, who studied out-of-body experience at the Monroe Institute for over 40 years. Buhlman said that if we want a new car, all we need to do is to have the thought, I want a new car. This thought exists in the fifth dimension. To bring it to the blueprint dimension or the fourth dimension, we need to focus on the car with enough intensity so that it begins to take form. We need to see the car in our mind with as much detail as possible, smell it, feel it under our hand as we touch the outside of the car, imagine what it would feel like to drive it, what it would feel like to own it, etc. William explained that every time we travel out of body and into the next realm, the fourth dimension, the one closest to us, which is where we go when we are first exiting the body, we will then be able to see the car take form. At first, it might be a fuzzy image. It isn't clear and well formed. Gradually, though, as we work on our focus with more detail, the car would become clearer and more detailed each time we saw it. Eventually, we might discover that one day, while driving past a car dealership, our car is sitting right there. This is not an overnight manifestation, as you can see, but it does work, and Buhlman knows the secret. What is the secret? The law of attraction. In 2006, a groundbreaking movie was produced called The Secret, and it became a big success. people were taking these concepts and making dream boards. They were wishing and focusing on all the wonderful things they wanted for their lives. Everything from new jobs and new relationships to cure for disease and million-dollar jackpots. It wasn't as easy as The Secret suggested, though, and eventually this concept was discarded as bunk and forgotten. What The Secret failed to teach everyone is the concept of vibrational frequency and how the law of attraction actually works. Just because you can dream it, visualize it, and desire it with ferocity doesn't mean you will automatically get it. The magic key to unlock this creation process is to match your frequency to the frequency of your desires so that you become in alignment with what you want. What does this mean? Let's say that you want a new relationship in your life. You want a partner who loves you unconditionally, accepts you authentically with enthusiasm, supports and encourages you, etc. For this person to come into your life based on the law of attraction, you must match your frequency to the person you are desiring. Do you love unconditionally, including yourself? Do you accept everyone's authenticity? Are you authentic? Do you support and encourage others in all ways, in the way that you want to be supported and encouraged? Keep in mind that this also includes yourself. In fact, including yourself in this focus is the main component that will enable this manifestation of your dream partner to come into your life. If not, then you are not at the vibrational level. You are not aligned to the vibration of this person you are desiring, and the two of you are out of reach, so to speak. You might say, well, if I had all these wonderful thoughts about others, and especially about myself, I wouldn't need anyone else. So what's the point? Exactly. You must be in the state of receiving this person into your life, and that means no strings attached. You must know that you already have all these things in your life and be able to receive it, or else you are trying to create from a place of resistance, and that will not work. If you are lacking in any of these qualities yourself, you are aligned with other people who are also lacking these qualities. And these are the people who will come into your vicinity, who are available for relationships. Does this make sense? Can you see how it works? You cannot manifest the perfect job for yourself if you are in a state of vibration in which you are thinking, I hate this job. In order to get a job you love, you must be in the state of vibration in which you love your job. Then, and only then, will other jobs you love come into your physical reality for you to experience. We are creating thought forms in the fourth dimension all the time with our focus. You might hear people say that they had a frightening experience while attempting to astral travel or have an out-of-body experience. Just as your thought forms exist in the fourth dimension, so do everyone else's. And unfortunately, we don't always think of kittens and rainbows when we focus with very much intensity. What do you think humans focus on the most? Do you think it might be their fears? What thought forms do you think that might create? We think it would create some very frightening things. Just remember, though, that all of these are just thoughts that hold a vibrational frequency, and just as we attract physical experiences to match our frequency here, likewise we experience different densities in the dimensions according to the frequency at which we are currently vibrating. We attract scary experiences when we are scared. Take some time to ponder that concept and how it relates to your own experiences. Thoughts are things. Thoughts have a vibration, and we are interacting with thoughts and the fifth dimension constantly. We not only are interacting with our own thoughts, but because every thought that has ever been thought exists there. We are also interacting with the thoughts of others. We would suggest that some of our thoughts that come into our minds are not even our own thoughts. They are thoughts that we have pulled in based on our own frequency at the moment. And we attract other thoughts that are of the same frequency, like a magnet. If all dimensions are holding various levels of densities, we could assume that in this realm of thoughts would be existing at a density within that dimension based on their frequency. Some thoughts are very happy thoughts, and we will assign these thoughts a high frequency, and therefore existing at a density that is different to very sad or angry thoughts that might be seen as being on a low end of the frequency scale. We are walking around within the fifth dimension thought realms constantly in our waking life, and we are pulling in thoughts from this realm that match our own, unaware. The remedy to this is to become consciously aware of your thoughts as much as possible. Become aware of the frequency at which you are vibrating, so that you are not manipulated into putting such intense focus on the things that you do not desire, and those things that are not in your best interest. How can we do this? One way is to recognize and become aware of your emotional state. Try to become emotionally intelligent. When you are feeling low, don't just wallow in your own misery. If you do this, you will attract more and more thoughts that are in alignment with these emotions. Emotions are just simply thoughts that are expressed in a physical experience through the body. If we assign colors to thoughts, we would like to assign red to very low frequency thoughts such as anger, sadness, jealousy, vengeance, etc. If you are experiencing any of these emotions, you are walking around in a soup of nothing but red thoughts, both yours and the red thoughts of others. Have you ever noticed that when you have a bad thought, another bad thought will inevitably follow? If we let this go on for long enough, we will eventually experience a depression. If we can only attract thoughts that are a match to our own in that moment, how in the world are we supposed to get ourselves out of such negative thinking? This is another secret. We need to act. To raise our vibration above these red thoughts and start putting ourselves within reach to other higher frequency thoughts, we must do something, anything, that brings us joy. It doesn't have to be any grand gesture. Just do something that will begin to introduce one moment of something that feels good. For example, you can give yourself a piece of candy that you enjoyed as a child. That will bring to mind a happy memory. Boom! You've just bounced your frequency up a little, so that happy thoughts are now accessible. You can listen to a favorite song, go for a walk, look at pleasant scenery, or anything you can think of that brings you just a moment of that feel-good vibe. If this is hard for you, then you might want to prepare ahead of time so that you have something easily at hand in moments of sadness or anger. Sometimes all it takes is just changing your location. If you're sitting, then stand up and take a short walk down the hall. If you're inside, go outside for a moment and take a few deep breaths. Be creative and think of all the different ways you can stop this chain of thought. It's not a coincidence that we refer to it in these terms. Be patient with yourself, and the important thing to grasp is that you are the only thinker of your thoughts. It is your responsibility to be in control of the energy you are both taking in and giving out. You are responsible for what you bring into the realm of the blueprint for this reality, not only for your own life, but for the lives of everyone else who shares this world. Do not create manifestations that you would not like to experience, so that you do create them for the experiences of others. So you do not create them for the experiences of others. Be responsible, be thoughtful, and be compassionate. What you create for yourself, you ultimately create for everyone around you. Start small. If we assign the very highest frequency emotions a color of direct contrast, we would assign this green, since it is in opposition to red on the color wheel. However, you can't get to green from red. You must move through all the adjacent color first, before you get to green. It's a gradual shift of frequency, and the more colors, thoughts you can surround yourself with, the more access you will have to thoughts other than red. It takes practice, but you'll get there. We are emotional beings with a full color palette of emotions from which to choose as we learn how to create in our reality. We are a rainbow of thoughts, as we should be, and it's up to us to take control and learn how to use these emotions for the benefit of everyone around us. If we practice and remain aware, we can learn how to shift low emotions such as sadness or anger into a frequency of being neutral, and then from there you may begin to access these emotions of joy that you really want to experience. It isn't a magic pill, but it does work if you put forth the effort to gain control of your emotions. When people are stuck in very low frequency of emotion, self-loathing, jealousy, hatred, etc., the only thoughts that they can attract are thoughts of this same frequency. Have you ever noticed how when we are around people like this, we tend to match our mood to theirs? Even if you have been having a great day, encountering the energy of someone who is only existing in the red frequency of thoughts will gradually begin to affect and influence the frequency of thought that we have access to as well. We are moving through their emotional thought soup without being aware of it, because you can't see it. We can feel it though, can't we? Therefore, having little to no contact with manipulators is so important to our recovery until we have reached a plateau of well-being where we are no longer affected by their toxic soup. This is extremely difficult though, so it's best to just leave these manipulators to their own quicksand, or we risk drowning with them. If you have researched or are familiar with the specific tactics that manipulators use, then we will assume that the terms love bombing, devaluing, and discard need no explanation. When we look at the law of attraction and the way it works, we can understand how these manipulation tactics work as well, and their effects on us. You can't squeeze water from a stone. There are varying interpretations and versions of this familiar saying, but the main idea is that you can't get something from another if it simply isn't there. Let's look at how this phrase applies to the energetic connection between a manipulator and his or her target. First, a person who is only thinking and therefore only attracting low energy thoughts is in a terrible state of being. This person is often the embodiment of every one of these low emotions, and very often chronically depressed. This is a person whose inner critic is never silent, and this person is incapable of raising their own frequency, even the slightest degree, to have access to higher frequency thoughts on a stable basis. At some point in their life, they realized that it was much easier and gave them much more satisfaction to draw this higher level frequency from others around them. Instead of acting with conscious self-reflection and the willingness to grow and change, they have deemed it necessary to depend on others to raise the frequency for them. This is either because they are unwilling to endure the pain and effort it will require to overcome this method of manipulation, or because there is something fundamentally different about their makeup that means they do not have the ability to do this, thus having no genuine soul, or only consisting of the very lowest composite of soul fragments / fires, and no higher self exists. It's still only a concept at the moment. At the fundamental level, what is happening is an exchange of energy. Using the manipulation tactics, let's look at how this energy exchange works. Manipulators are using the law of attraction as well, but they are using it in destructive ways. The difference being that the manipulators take control of their own frequency by taking control of the frequency of others. When someone is highly manipulative, they seek the admiration, adoration, and affection of others. We all do this, don't we? It feels good when other people give us this kind of energy. When it is done with equal exchange, it raises the frequency of both people in the relationship. Manipulated people are aware of this energy exchange and raising frequency too, and this is the love bombing that we all experience when we are in relationships with them, although they might not understand on the conscious level. They pour it on like crazy, knowing that when we are showered in excess feelings of high frequency thoughts, emotions, we will raise our frequency like a rocket. They need us to feel this way. They can't take something from us that we don't possess. However, when the inner emotional landscape of a highly manipulated person is permanently stuck in the lower frequency of emotions, they can't very well give what they don't have, can they? All these love-bombing accolades are false. If someone is not happy, can they genuinely express happiness for others? We would say no. If manipulators could genuinely feel emotions that contradict their inner critic and low-frequency state of being, they wouldn't be manipulators, would they? Instead of two people in a relationship raising their frequency in tandem, what happens is that we get drawn into their sphere, their emotional soup, by our own thoughts that match theirs. We also possess these same thoughts about ourselves that the manipulators have, or else we wouldn't be a match to their frequency. Healing is so important. We can't say this enough. If we, being in our wounded and fragmented state, get lured into relationships with these people, it is because we have not yet learned how to distinguish genuine high-frequency thoughts from false ones. Some of us who have been in toxic relationships all our lives, this feels normal to us. It is only after we begin to experience genuine love and affection that we start to notice the difference. We can then see through these tactics with better clarity. We begin to understand that there exists an equal exchange of energy. In toxic relationships, the energy exchange only goes one way, to the manipulator. We begin these damaging relationships at a high level of frequency, or we are soon put there, and we are kept there through repeated love-bombing tactics. However, what inevitably follows this tactic is the consumption of our energy. We get knocked off our pedestal, so to speak, by obvious and not so obvious attempts at devaluation. Devaluation tactics are things that make us think we are not good enough, we are not appreciated, we are not valued for who we are in our authenticity. For someone in a relationship with a vulnerable narcissist, we get a never-ending cycle of feel sorry for me, I'm a loser, make me feel better, and I can only be happy if you make me happy. All energy is directed at keeping the manipulator elevated, while the manipulator is not giving anything in return, not even an attempt to help themselves. This is an exhausting and futile relationship. As we get lower, they get higher. This is the energy drain. It makes them feel good for others to feel bad. They want you to feel like they do, because in some twisted interpretation of the way relationships work, They only feel loved when their partner is jealous, so they will do things to make the partner jealous. They only feel appreciated when their partner needs them. They only feel valued when their partner is afraid of losing them, and so on. Do you see how their manipulative tactics to make us feel bad will in turn make them feel good? Thus, as you get lower and lower in emotional vibration, they get higher and higher. This is only a temporary fix for them, however, so the manipulative tactics must be repeated over and over and over to sustain this type of relationship. What do we experience after years of this type of energy manipulation? We get sick, we get depressed, we get drained to the point that we ourselves are in danger of having to manipulate others in order to raise our own frequency, because we are so fragmented and so wounded that we are no longer connected to our higher self that allows us to be wholly and completely sovereign and capable of having control over our own reality through self-reflection, healing, and spiritual growth. What happens when we have become so wounded and drained that the manipulators are no longer able to control the raising and lowering of our frequency to suit their needs? We get discarded. You can't squeeze water from a stone. Can you see how this relationship dynamic could be compared to a spreading virus among the human population? Is it any wonder why this physical dimension we live within is getting more and more dense, lower and lower in frequency, as we march forward without any awareness of what we are doing to each other and what we are creating? If thoughts are swimming along in the fifth dimensional soup, waiting to latch onto whatever magnet matches its frequency, wouldn't it be to our benefit to pay attention to what we are attracting and what ingredients we are contributing to the soup? Try this exercise as you begin to create better and better things for yourself. If you want a wonderful partner in life, then be a wonderful partner. If you want happiness, then do things that make you happy, and do things that make others happy. If you want the best outcome of a situation, then approach each situation with the intention for the best interest of all those involved. If you want to have fulfilling experiences in your life, then first give yourself fulfilling experiences so that you are a match for those things you desire. If you want abundance in your life, appreciate the abundance that surrounds you so that more abundance will be attracted to you. If you feel surrounded by abundance, you will receive more abundance. Remember our previous article on need and lack. We often only seek to change our lives when we need something or when we are lacking in something. To create what we want for ourselves, we must realize that we already have it. Funny how that works. We wish you to feel loved, encouraged, and supported. We know that when you feel these things, you will get more of these things. Imagine what our experiences would be if more people could wish the best for everyone.